Hey y'all, Dixie here. Today I want to talk to you about feet and trail runners. I've had pretty good luck with various brands of trail runners, and to be completely honest, switching from one to another to test them out, they've never really seemed to affect me in a big way, one way or the other. I joke and say that my feet are just dead and they can kind of take anything. But in my 11 plus years of backpacking and through hiking now, I've met many people, especially through hiking, that have just been plagued with foot problems and have had to switch from one pair of trail runners to the next, and then that didn't work and they switch up again. And I just never quite understood what is the difference between somebody who can throw on a pair of trail runners and go and the person who has so many problems trying to dial in what works for their feet. That is until I interviewed Dr. Morgan Brosnahan on my podcast a couple months ago. For those of y'all who are not familiar with her, she is the one who created Blaze Physio. She is a physical therapist who travels along and helps through hikers during their through hikes with different physical issues that they have along the way. We got to talking about common injuries, which led to feet, which led to shoes.
In like a perfect world, they would just make every shoe a wide toe box. We have enough research. Your shoe should look like your foot.
The main options on the market right now for through hikers, as far as trail runners go, that have wide toe boxes are Altras and Topo Athletic trail runners. I used Ultra Lone Peaks for years, and they seem to be the most popular trail runners out there on trail for through hikers. They have a 0 heel to toe drop, which means that the toe and the heel of your foot will be on an even plane. The stack height, which is the thickness from the ground to your toe and the ground to your heel, will be the same. Most of the tennis shoes or athletic shoes in general, or most shoes that exist these days, you have a higher stack height on the heel than you do the toe. Hence the word drop, from heel to toe drop. Ultra Lone Peaks are also pretty minimal on cushion and stability.
Something I'm working on is I really want to get more information out there to help people make better choices on their shoes, because a lot of people
Okay.
will choose their shoes based on surveys, based on their favorite creator, based on some Facebook thread, and there's so much nuance in the shoe world of what works for what people that the most common shoe issue I see is like Ultra Low Peaks. People have just discovered wide toe box shoes for the first time, basically, so they just go right to Low Peaks, which are a very unsupportive shoe, which is great for like strong ankles, efficient gait patterns. Like Low Peaks can be really great shoes, but there are a lot of people who have really weak feet and they don't realize it, and then they put themselves in a shoe that's going to really challenge their feet, and that's not a good way to build strength when you're under that amount of load. Like if you're doing it really casually, it can help build strength, which it would be like, I want to get stronger when I squat, so let me just start with 300 pounds. That's
Gotcha.
sort of what it looks like in the feed. And so, like, it is a little disappointing that there aren't more options, varying levels of cushion and stability, heel drop that have a wide toe box, like, other than like what there is across like the Topo Ultra spectrum.
If people just went to a 0 drop, less stable shoe in normal day life, they may not have as much of an issue, and that might allow their foot to build up strength, and the same with their ankle, while allowing for that splaying of the toes and good foot function. So why do people even have issues with their feet and have weak feet? I think the shoes that we wear in everyday life may be to blame, or at least it doesn't help the situation. We have these constricted toe boxes on our footwear, so we're trying to walk around like this with our toes. And then you have heels, and heels really started out for people who were riding horses, and then somehow it trickled into fashion, and not even just for women, but if you think about it, men's work shoes in the office often have a heel to them. And then, as I mentioned before, the heel to toe drop. Most dress shoes have that, but even most tennis shoes and active footwear types have that drop now to accommodate for people who have gotten used to walking with their foot like that and like this. So for those people who have the weaker feet that are trying to get out there on the trail, maybe they do need something that is more rigid and has a heel to toe drop that's significant enough to really support their foot and what it's used to. Dr. Brosnahan gave the example of Solomon's. They are definitely more stable, more rigid. The issue with them is they've got that narrow toe box. So if you have a really narrow foot, you can make this work for you. It might settle most of the issues, but for the person who doesn't have that narrow foot, it's not really going to work out well for them. So that really means that it boils down to the problem is there isn't a really stable, rigid trail runner that also has a heel to toe drop that's significant with a wide toe box. So she's been trying to talk to some of the sales reps with those bigger companies like Altra and say, hey, could y'all put out something that has some stability, that's got a heel to toe drop, that also has a wide toe box for these hikers that have weaker feet? Because if you can get in that trail runner through hiking market, like the people out on the trails will really appreciate you.
I usually try to reach out to companies and be like, I see like X amount of people per year. They're on average going to go through like 6 to 8 shoes. I know this just feels like a small thing. It's not like I have like 1 million followers on Instagram or anything. So they're kind of looking at it like, what kind of influence could you have? And I'm like, well, a little bit. And like also it would just help people. So maybe if it's worth it, because
just help them, man. Altra does have a model of shoe called the Experience Wild, and they are on the 3rd version of that. It's got a 4mm drop, which is pretty crazy for Altra because they've always been known for their 0 drop shoes. And it has a 32mm stack height at the heel and a 28mm stack height at the toe, which their Ultra Lone Peaks, that most common shoe I was talking about earlier, has a 25mm stack height. So maybe Ultra is heading in that direction of offering something like Dr. Brosnahan has mentioned. I do think that Topo Athletic Terra Ventures are also a really good trail runner. I've honestly kind of migrated to them a bit more, especially for trails that I know are going to have a bit rougher terrain. But they only have a 3mm drop, but they do feel sturdier and more protective because they have a sturdier midsole. And then the rubber outsole is also tougher and just more rugged and protective feeling. So I prefer these when I'm going to be on really rocky terrain or especially road walks like on the Florida Trail or the Continental Divide Trail where you're just going to be beating your feet up. They seem to protect it a lot better. While I do think that Altra is moving in the right direction, having that Experience Wild as an option out there, I still think that for somebody who's beginning a through hike right now, that doesn't know how their feet are gonna do, who isn't sure what footwear they need, probably the safest bet that you can get starting out of the gate is the Topo Athletic Terra Venture, whatever version they happen to be on when you start. It definitely seems like the better, more stable, protective shoe for a weaker foot because the Terra Venture has a rock plate and the Experience Wild does not. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the more stable, tougher midsole and rubber outsole. The Experience Wild is all around more flexible still, where the Terra Venture is more of a rugged workhorse trail runner. With that said, I think there is still a big need to be filled here. Somebody needs to make a sturdy trail runner with a heel to toe drop that's more comparable to what people are used to wearing daily in athletic shoes, and a wide toe box. Let people be Bozo the Clown. It may not look cute, but I'm telling you, your toes will feel a whole lot better. And as a side note before I go, I always recommend people who are starting out that don't know what their feet like, get your trail runners or footwear from REI, because if you're a member there, you have to become a member, and you try out a trail runner or a shoe, it doesn't work out for you, you have up to a year to return it, even if it's used, because going from one shoe to the next, to the next, to the next, and not being able to return them because they're used can be quite expensive on the thru-hiker budget, or even in general. So anyway, that is all I have for y'all today on feet and trail runners, but I would love to hear in the comments below what footwear you've decided on for your backpacking and thru-hiking adventures and why you like it so much, because we're all still trying to figure things out here. Gear is ever changing, and I think it's helpful to people to understand why folks choose what gear they choose. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to share this with a friend if you found it useful, and we will see y'all next time.